Hello and good evening. I would like to welcome you to this webinar on risk management. Before we start, please allow me to remind you that every individual, aware individual, is a project manager, a risk manager, and a value engineer. At first, let's review what one of the world's through history, one of the most prominent strategists through history, Sun Tzu, as he states in his book regarding the art of war. Sun Tzu states the art of war teaches us not to rely on the likelihood of the enemy not coming, but on our own readiness to receive it. Not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our own position unassailable. So here, chance, the word chance, and the word likelihood both represent probability. And as we see from the definition of risk, it is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on one or more project objectives. So it's necessary to understand that when we talk about risk, we're talking about likelihood, we're talking about chance, we're talking about probability. So like Sun Tzu said, it is very unwise to depend on luck when dealing with the future, and we should really rely on ourselves to foresee what's going to happen and anticipate it and plan how to deal with it. So in this table, we show different knowledge area and the maturity of each of the knowledge area, project management knowledge areas in different industries. And as you can see here, risk is the least developed among all areas in almost each and every industry, except maybe for engineering industry. For engineering and construction industry, risk quality has a lesser score than risk. In each and every other environment, also in information systems, no, only in engineering and construction, and that will tell us clearly that risk is paying attention to risk is really underestimated in project management. So like we just stated, risk is an uncertain event or condition that, if it occurs, has a positive or negative effect on one or more of the project objectives. Project risk management includes the process of conducting risk management, which includes planning, identification, analysis, response planning, response implementation, and monitoring of the project risks. The objectives of project risk management are to increase the probability and or impact of positive risks, which are opportunities. So risk could be a threat or an opportunity. If it's a positive risk, it's an opportunity, and if it is a negative risk, it's a threat. And our objective is to minimize threats and maximize opportunities. Project risks exist in two levels. Individual risk affects one or more project objectives. Overall risk affects the whole project. So again, project risk is the probability that things will go wrong. So you just have to appreciate it is a probability. So it might happen and it might not happen. And if it goes wrong, it might negatively impact the project's completion on time, within budget, and to the predefined quality level. So what is risk management all about? Risk management actually is a process which is made up of identification, risk identification, risk assessment, risk prioritization, as well as planning or dealing or managing risk, which has four or five strategies according to the reference you use, which is avoid, mitigate, transfer, accept, and sometimes some references will also include escalate. And the final step in our process is monitor risk. So we come to our first activity of our process, which is identify risk. And what we mean by identify risk, we mean it is the process of identifying individual project risks as well as sources of overall project risks and documenting their characteristics. The key benefits of this process is the documentation of existing individual projects. The key benefit of this process is the documentation of existing individual project risks and the sources of overall project risk. It also brings together information so the project team can respond appropriately to identified risks. So what tools and techniques do we use in risk management in general, and of course in risk identification? We use expert judgment. We use data analysis, and we use meetings or workshops in order to identify, assess, plan, and monitor risk as well. So what are the key sources of risks in a project? The key sources of risk on a project are people. For example, do we have the right skills on the team? Will team members be available when needed? Do they understand the project's purpose and objectives? Can they work together? Technology. Does the team have access to the tools and software it needs? Are the tools, software appropriate, robust, scalable? Sources of risk related to organization. Do all stakeholders agree on project objectives and purpose? Are there stakeholders who have not participated in initiating the project? Does the sponsor have enough clout to influence other stakeholders? Finances, risks related to finances. Can the project manager require multiple sign-offs before spending money? If so, how much time will they take and what is the scheduling impact? Will currency fluctuations impact availability of cash? Is ongoing funding dependent on timelines of clients' progress payments? Risks related to law and contracts. Are pending regulatory issues likely to impact project specifications? Do our suppliers own the patent for the technology we expect to purchase? Physical risks. Are our workers more likely to get hurt if we increase the number of hours they work? Will our existing noise reduction devices protect workers from hearing damage? Environment. How will an early hurricane season impact our project? Will dust from the neighboring factory impact our clean room air quality? Will municipal construction projects impact our productivity? So, as we can gather so far, it is an exercise of some form of brainstorming. And in order to support and enhance or facilitate brainstorming, we use prompt list. Actually, we use prompt lists, not just one list. Uh, the previous table we have just been discussing as sources of risk, it's just some form of prompt list uh, that could be used as a foundation or a starting point for a detailed prompt list. So a prompt list is a checklist developed from the lowest level of risk breakdown structure to quickly accumulate risks. For example, we have TECOP, which means technical, environmental, commercial, operational, political. Like we have seen here, we have people, we have technology, we have organization, we have finance, we have law, contract. It's a little bit different, but we also have, they share, for example, technical and environmental. Operational could be the same as organizational, and it could be different. And we also have political, which is not included. And of course, we have the famous PESTEL, which is political, economical, social, technological, legal, environmental. So I need a certain prompt list to start off with. And as I mature, if we go back to, if we go back here, what we mean here by maturity of certain knowledge areas means how much the competence of the organization regarding this particular domain has improved as time progress. So what I will end up to mature, I will start up with such a list, and I will start to make it more comprehensive by adding what's missing. For example, here political is missing, so I will add political. Economical is missing, I will add economical. Social is missing, I will add technological, and so forth. Are there other sources of risk or other prompts we can use? Of course, 6 M's is very important for us to know and understand. And 6M is also how the fishbone or Ishikawa diagram is built. So the fishbone diagram or Ishikawa diagram, whenever I need to perform analysis, corporate analysis, using an Ishikawa diagram is a very good starting point. So again, I can start to take prompts from a list like the 6M model and add it to my previous table in order to mature it further as time progresses. So our 6 M's are man, machine, method, material and measurement, as well as Mother Nature. And of course, we have management, which management is part of method, and we have money. Money is part of material, and power, which is also part of method, and we have maintenance, which could be part of machine or part of method as well. So we can have more M's because we also have management, for example. It's an M that's not written here, so we can have M, and also M will be part of method. The more detailed my list is, and the more elaborate my list is, the better coverage of uncertainties I can generate as candidates for risk, for being risk sources. Also, we have 7 P's, and 7 P's is based on the famous marketing model, which is product, price, place, and promotion. But the famous marketing model is only 4 P's, but 7 P's is further elaboration on the 4P model, which is people or personnel and process and physical evidence. So again, I can use prompts from 7 P's to improve my table of prompt list. And we have the 5S, another example: surrounding, supplier, system, skill, safety, and so on. I can go on and on and on and on. And the more my organization becomes mature, the more this table will become more developed, as well as these questions. For example, here the question is saying, will dust from the neighboring factory impact our clean room air quality? I might not be working in clean rooms, so I will add acronyms to this left side of the list, and I will also add questions and improve on the questions on the right side of the list. So again, knowledge areas, and we have certain risks associated with different knowledge areas. So for example, when we talk about integration management, we are talking about inadequate planning, poor resource allocation, poor integration management, lack of post-project review. So these are all types of risks related to the integration knowledge area. Also related to scope, we have poor definition of scope or work packages, incomplete definition of quality requirements, inadequate scope control, time, errors in estimating time or resource availability, poor allocation and management of float, early release of competitive products, cost, estimating errors, inadequate productivity, cost change or contingency control. Actually, it's poor contingency control, poor maintenance, security, purchasing, etc. Quality, poor attitude towards quality, substandard design, materials, workmanship, inadequate quality assurance program, human resources, poor conflict management, poor project organization and definition of responsibilities, absence of leadership. Communications, carelessness in planning or communicating, lack of consultation with key stakeholders, risk itself, ignoring risk, unclear assignment of risk, poor insurance management. Procurement, unenforceable conditions, uh, unenforceable conditions or contract clauses. Adversarial relations, uh, adversarial relationships. Now, how do we assess the risks that we identify? So, risk assessment deals with uh, evaluating the probability or estimating the probability of risk, the likelihood that a problem or opportunity will occur, as well as the impact of risk, which is the degree of seriousness of the risk's consequences. So we have two types of risk analysis. One type is called qualitative risk analysis, which is the process of prioritizing individual project risks for further analysis or action by assessing their probability of occurrence and impact, as well as other characteristics. The key benefit of this process is focusing efforts on high priority risks. This is judgmental, purely judgmental, and it is purely qualitative risk estimation, which, depending on the size of the project and the seriousness of the project, particularly the stakeholders, and does it involve international financiers like the World Bank or the IFC? In such cases, qualitative risk assessment might not be adequate to address and speak to such international organization, and it's only a starting point to further develop it into quantitative risk analysis. So again, quantitative risk analysis will use the estimations of quantitative risk analysis. For example, quantitative risk analysis will use terms like high, medium, and low. So we have high probability of occurrence, we have medium probability of occurrence, we have low probability of occurrence. So we have high, we have medium, and we have low. And also impact of risk. If the risk does happen, will it be like the outcome of the risk? How serious is it? The damages, how bad are they? So are they high? Or we can use severe, for example, but let's just use high, medium, and low as well. So when we come to transforming quantitative risk analysis into qualitative risk analysis, we say, for example, high is from 10 going down to, let's say, 8. And medium, for example, is from 7 to 4. And low is from 1 to 3, for example. And we cannot say from 0 because when we talk about probability, probability has to be more than 0, and of course less than 1, because if it is 0, then it will never happen, and if it is 1, then it is a certainty, it's no longer a probability. So here we say the likelihood is low, so it's between 1 and 3. We can say between 0 and 3 because we are actually evaluating the size of the risk itself, not the probability. However, to be not to cause any confusion anywhere, we will say low is from 1 to 3, and the same will be for impact of risk. So we come to a certain risk, let's call it risk number 1. And risk number 1 was identified as high. So as quantitative risk assessment, in qualitative risk assessment, I would say the probability of high, is it 8 or is it 9 or is it 10? Let's say it is a 10. It's a very high probability of occurrence. Okay, the severity is also high. Is it 7 or is it 8 or is it 9 or is it 10? So we'll say it is 8. So when we multiply probability of risk by impact of risk, we get the risk index, or the number of the risk, which is in this example is 80. So we have 80. This is our risk. So another one has different numbers and so on, and I will end up with quantitative, which is value in numbers, which will help me to prioritize by making a list with the highest number at the top and the lowest number at the bottom. So I understand which risk has to be addressed first. So again, risks which are in this area, like we said, high, we said it's from 8 to 10. 8 to 10. So if I multiply 8 by 8, it is 64, I think. And 10 by 10 is 100. So it's like from 64 to 100, it is a high risk. Or I just say here from 8 to 10, and here from 8 to 10. And I find the point of each risk, and I would say here this is risk number 1, risk number 2, risk 1, 2, and so forth. So I understand now, I have grouped my risk into 4 separate prioritized lists. And of course, risks which have a higher probability and high impact, which are in this segment, are going to be to have more attention and more focus. So this is how I prioritize risk. I can also prioritize risks quantitatively, directly, without having the numbers, just by stating high, medium, and low. I have my risk list, and I come to the risk high. How high is it? And I estimate where it is in this rectangle or square, based on expert judgment, and I also, according to how they look, I can prioritize my risks. In general, I will have 4 different squares of different severity or of different importance, and inside each square I can further refine the prioritization using quantitative risk management. So now I have identified my risk, I have assessed my risk, I have prioritized my risks. How do I manage risks? Like we said, we have 4 approaches, which is avoid, accept, transfer, mitigate, and we have a fifth one, which is escalate. Avoid risk. For example, in chemical engineering, we say we substitute the chemical with another chemical that has no consequences, a safe product. We substitute, so we just avoid it completely. We eliminate it and avoid it completely. Accept, which is accept the risk, which is we decide to live with the consequences should they occur. Meaning, I will have 2 types of reserve, which we say contingency reserve. We have risk reserve. So I have some money reserved for risk. So I have already estimated my risk quantitatively. Like I said in the previous example, I have only estimated the risk quantitatively with regards to multiplying severity by probability. However, severity, instead of calling it severe, medium, and low, I can give it money value. So I can estimate, for example, if it's going to be, and how I transfer to money value, for example, in safety, if it has to do with safety of employees. I estimate, for example, if I have a death, it's going to cost me $1 million in compensation. If somebody has a severe incident causing a disability, so for example, in this case, it's $500,000. Okay, how many individuals might be exposed? In the first case, 2 individuals. So I estimate for a certain risk an amount, for example, $2 million, because 2 individuals in worst case scenario might die if the risk occurs, and it has a low probability of, say, whatever the probability it has. But I must have contingency reserve for it. I must have $2 million in reserve should the risk occur. And this is what we refer to when we say accept the risk. Transfer the risk is when you have insurance. Get someone else to share the risk or underwrite it for you. So maybe you can, if you have, like, for example, investment risk, you can get a partner or underwrite the risk, meaning get an insurance company to insure you. Here, for example, you made $2 million reserve to pay in case of death. Here you transfer it, so you make some kind of life insurance for all employees working on the project, or some particular employees who has more exposure to risk. So in case one of the employees is affected, so the insurance company pays not the project. Mitigate the risk, meaning prepare to deal with the risks through contingency planning. And what we mean by contingency planning is reducing the damage or minimizing the damage should the risk occur to as low as practicably possible. And finally, escalate the risk. And here what we mean by escalate the risk, it means if you are not happy with your uh, with your options, if you're not happy with the available options, and you need management to interfere, higher up management to interfere and give you further support, so you escalate the risk by addressing whoever is more responsible, for example, a project sponsor or a project champion, to address a certain risk or help you address a certain risk. Uh, Finally, we have monitoring risk. And when we talk about monitoring risk, it means I have planned risk and I have put in place all the contingency reserves and the management reserves to deal with the risk. So how can I make sure we are continuing or how do I make sure that my risk management plan and risk management efforts are effective? We do this through monitoring and controlling, like we do to every other aspect of project management. So the process of monitor risk is the process of monitoring the implementation of agreed upon risk response plans, tracking identified risks, identifying and analyzing new risks, and evaluating risk process effectiveness throughout the project. The key benefits of this process is that it enables project decisions to be based on current information about overall project risk exposure and individual project risks. So let's recap what we discussed today regarding risk. Risk management encompasses risk identification, risk assessment, risk prioritization, risk planning, and finally, risk monitoring, or monitoring and controlling, of course. And as a final thought about risk, we refer to Murphy's Law, which says if anything can go wrong, it will. So risk has to be taken considerably seriously, and risk planning and risk management should be very serious and very important aspect of project management and project planning, because in projects we have another variation to Murphy's laws. We say in project management, Murphy's law works over time. So Murphy's law is not just happening in project management; it's actually working like double time. Projects are very notorious and famous for facing interruptions and facing unexpected events all the time. So unless I have certain control over risks, which can be identified, then it's going to be a continuous putting out fires. And if I am putting out fires, then I'm not managing. So planning to fail is failing. Failing to plan is planning to fail. So unless I plan my project well, and a very crucial and foundational and pivotal part of project management and planning is risk management and planning. I thank you very much for your attendance, and I shall be looking forward to receive any of your questions, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Akram.
Thank you, Hayam. Do you have any question, please?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we have come to the conclusion of our webinar for today. I hope it has been informative and it uh, shaded a new light on the subject of risk management, as well as highlighted and pointed out why risk management is very important, and studying and understanding risk management is very important, not just for project managers, because like I always say, everybody is a project manager, a risk manager, and a value engineer. So project management is something every human being has to learn. Risk management as well, and of course we do it all for value, so we are all value engineers, therefore value engineering is very important. So once again, thank you very much and hope to see you again very soon.
Thank you.